Jackal, and today I'm here to talk about This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Mukhtar. So this isn't my first time reading this book. I first decided to get into it back in 2023 when the Big Ridiculous tweet about the book went viral and everyone was talking about it. But it's been a while, and I want to reread and share my thoughts. Before I get into my thoughts, though, let me just read the summary. In the ashes of a dying world, Red finds a letter marked "Burn before reading," signed Blue. So begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents in a war that stretches through the vast reaches of time and space. Red belongs to the agency, a post-singularity technotopia. Blue belongs to Garden, a single vast consciousness embedded in all organic matter. Their pasts are bloody and their futures mutually exclusive. They have nothing in common, save that they're the best, and they're alone. Now what began as a battlefield boast grows into a dangerous game, one both red and blue are determined to win, because winning's what you do in a war, isn't it? A tour de force collaboration from two powerhouse writers that span the whole of time and space. So the book has an interesting format. It's like half vignettes from each of these characters as they're on missions and receive letters, and half epistolary as they read the letters they received from each other while they were doing missions. One of the advantages of this conceit is it allows the book to be denser in its musings and exploration of the characters' feelings. In a more traditional structure, too much navel gazing risks ungrounding the reader and threatens the integrity of the illusion of the world, but with an epistolary novel, the integrity of the illusion isn't threatened because the author isn't pretending the reader is there watching the character or looking at the events of the book through the character's eyes. So one thing I really appreciate is how the authors approach world building. We learn a lot through the characters doing rather than having things just explained to us in an expositionary paragraph. For example, this is how time travel is introduced to us in the first chapter. That was fun, she thinks, but the thought sours in the framing. It was clean at least. Climb up time's thread into the past and make sure no one survives this battle to muddle the future her agency's arranged. The future in which her agency rules, in which Red herself is possible. She's come to knot this strand of history and sear it until it melts. The author resists the urge to explain completely how time travel works. We get more details in later chapters as these agents do, various things in their missions to influence the time stream, and we learn how time can be influenced and all that stuff. Um, but yeah, that isn't to say the book never explains anything to the audience or never has has exposition tells us how the setting works. But these moments are brief, and framing it in the context of the letters as in exchange of curiosity between two enemy agents means they also help characterize the tellers of the expositions, how they understand themselves and their own place in their culture. For example, in one of her letters, Blue describes the way she was made as thus: Garden seeds the past with us. Your commandant knows this already, whether or not it's considered need to know for you, and we learn from and grow into its threads. We treat the past as a trellis, coaxer vineyard through and around, and harvest is not a word for swiftness. The future harvests us, stomps us into wine, pours us back into the root system in loving libation, and we grow stronger and more potent together. So describing the future as stomping into wine indicates Blue feels this process is rough and violent, and describing being returned into to Garden as loving libation is very interesting, since libation is liquid poured as a sacrifice for religious purposes, indicating Blue considers being put back into Garden's fold as a sacrifice of some kind, which squares with how she describes herself as a loner whose favorite position is to be alone in a city, to be in a crowd but not a part of it. So this also hints at her growing trust for Reds, and she seems to take Red at her word that Red's ignorance about something the commandant knows is genuine. and it's not like some sort of trick her into revealing more. Um, as you can probably tell from the examples I've shared, the writing is like gorgeous, very philosophical at times and dense with metaphor. But even when it's not trying to be philosophical or like very dense with metaphor, it's still capable of a beautiful turn of phrase. There's two viewpoint characters in the book, known only as Red and Blue, who are on opposite sides of the eponymous Time War. Each are interesting characters with their own worldview, but what connects them both is a desire to be apart, but also to find someone who can understand and accept them. They're both characters who are very odd to their societies. Blue like describes how she has like a very deep like hunger and desire, and that makes her like odd to her fellows and sort of like makes Garden see her as off-putting. While Red has intrinsic desire to eat despite not needing to eat, and feel exhausted and sleep despite not needing to do so. There's like a desire in her to ape the weaknesses of humanity, of like living like organisms. And these oddities that they're looking for others to accept, they find like acceptance in each other. So what about the plot? Well, there isn't really like much to talk about in that department. The letters and vignettes paint a picture of movement in time, different missions, victories and losses in the Time War, but the meat of the story is with regard to the characters' shifting feelings regarding one another. They grow from enemies making boasts and cautiously probing one another to saving each other's lives, and then declaring they love each other and trying to save their relationship from each other's respective sides. So like the plot and like the progression isn't really in the Time War. That more or less stays constant. We never like really get a sense that of like that winning or losing is the point of the book. So overall, I'd say I really love this book. I would give it a 5-star rating, and I recommend it if you're like looking for a book with like gorgeous prose a and like an atmosphere you want to like sink into. If you're looking for something more plot focused with like mind shattering revelations and like twists, that's not this book necessarily. Anyways, that's my review of This Is How You Lose the Time War. Thank you for listening, and see you all in the next video.